Some friendships only feel real because you were always the one who was making it easy. You were the one who reached out first. You're the one who flexed your schedule. You're the one who let things slide. And for a while, you convinced yourself that this is just how friendship works. That showing up meant you were carrying most of the weight. But it catches up eventually. The day you stop initiating, for example, or the week that you needed support but got silence. The season that you're no longer useful and suddenly they're no longer around. What you thought was connection actually turned out to be proximity. What you thought was closeness was actually more convenience. And when that illusion broke, the pain wasn't just about them leaving, it was about you realizing that they were never really there. This episode is for that moment. The one where you realize your circle is built more on habits than on care. The friendships that faded when life got hard, or the ones that never asked how you were, only what you could do. Here at Bintegers, this is the kind of reckoning I walk people through often. This quiet but seismic shift from performative connection to meaningful integrity. See, I want relationships that last, but we can't build them on ease alone, can we? And I have to be honest, this isn't just a reflection from someone who's been hurt by one-sided friendships. See, I've also been the one who offered friendships only when it was easy. His name was Tony. He wasn't liked by most. He was often taken advantage of. He was patient, quiet, gentle, the kind of person people would ignore or joke about, and I wasn't any better. I joined the ridicule. I passed him by, and I only ever reached out when it suited me, never because I truly saw him. Until one summer when I reached out again and he wasn't there. His family had moved away. For the first time, I felt the weight of what I had lost. Not just his friendship, but my own integrity as well. The opportunity to treat someone with real care squandered. And it haunted me because when someone has always been available, you assume that they always will be. And I realized I treated him as a placeholder, as a backup, a convenience. And he had shown me nothing but steady and undeserved kindness. That moment changed me. And ever since, I've lived with a vow to never treat another person as optional, to never reduce someone's presence to their availability, and to never confuse loyalty with proximity. See, we talk a lot about being ghosted, but some of us need to admit that we were the ones who vanished, emotionally, relationally, morally. And that's where this conversation begins. See, the problem with convenient friendships is they often look full until life asks them to deepen. They celebrate your wins, yes, but they go quiet during your losses. They reply to your jokes, but not to your honesty. And they're in for the brunches and the birthdays and the fun, but not the hospital visits or the hard conversations or the emotional check-ins that don't come with party favors. And the danger is this. We start to believe that this is normal. We start to think it's too much to expect consistency, too demanding to want to be known, or too needy to long for friendships that last beyond what's easy. So we stop asking, and we stop hoping, and we stop trying. But here's the catch. When we lower our expectations to match what others are willing to give, we don't become stronger. We actually become lonelier. Lonely in a room full of people who laugh with us but wouldn't sit with us when we cry. Lonely in a group chat that lights up over memes but leaves you on red when you share something real. lonely in a friendship where your availability is appreciated, but your humanity is not. See, this isn't bitterness. This is the grief of clarity. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's what made my experience with Tony so pivotal. It wasn't just a lesson in how to treat others. It was a revelation of how fragile connection becomes when it's built on assumptions instead of convenience. And I realized that the kind of friendship that I long for, the kind that I now try to foster through my work here at Bintegers, it isn't really based on how often we talk, but how deeply we know each other. See, friendship at its core is not measured by attendance. It's actually measured by presence, by mutual care, by showing up without needing to be reminded, by remembering details that matter, by holding space not just for the fun you, but the you that's scared and exhausted and unraveling. And maybe most importantly, it's also measured by what happens when the dynamic shifts, when you're no longer the strong one, when you're the one who's falling apart, when you're having to notice that there's nothing to offer but your presence, and you find whether that's enough. See, those are the moments that expose the difference between friendship and convenience. And if we're being honest, those moments hurt. Not just because of what they reveal about others, but because of what they reveal also about how we've settled for, how we've grown used to being surrounded by others but not really supported, and how we've also allowed consistency to be confused with closeness. See, it's not just about them, it's also about us and the standards that we've accepted, the patterns that we've perpetuated, the pieces of ourselves that we've silenced in order to keep something, anything going. But what if the point isn't to keep those friendships alive? What if the point is to grieve them and then to make space for something better? Some friendships were not built to last. And that's not a failure. That's more of a revelation. See, when we finally name what's been missing, that's reciprocity or curiosity or emotional presence, we begin then to reclaim our worth. Because too often we stay in convenient connections out of fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of seeming too sensitive. Fear of looking like we expect too much. Fear of starting over like from scratch when everyone else seems already paired up. But if we're being honest, like staying in these one-sided friendships is already a kind of loneliness, isn't it? It's a more dangerous kind because it tricks us into thinking we're connected when really we are not. There's a quiet liberation in finally admitting, this doesn't feed me anymore, for example. Or this never saw me in the first place. Or I've been loyal to this version of what only existed in my mind. This is, I think, where the real work begins. Here at Bintegers, I want to help people walk through this tension and how to honor what was without pretending that it still is. How to let go of that with integrity. How to stop ghosting ourselves in the process of maintaining others and our connection to them. Because the truth is, I think many of us have been ghosting our own needs for years, just so we can stay in these convenient friendships. So we don't speak up, we don't ask for more, we don't risk rocking the boat, even when the boat is going nowhere. And we tend to think that silence preserves the connection. But silence often just preserves the illusion. And when we choose to finally speak, when we say, I want to feel seen, not just summoned when it suits you, it's then that we risk losing that friendship. But in the process, we also might regain ourselves. We might remember that love without curiosity is not intimacy, and that connection without mutuality is not safety. And that presence without presence isn't love, it's just performance. If only someone showed up when not only when it's fun but and easy and convenient, but also when they're showing up for you when you need it. They're showing up for the version that also costs them something. See, it's not friendship when they ignore those parts of you. That's just access. The antidote isn't bitterness, it's boundaries. Not walls or vengeance or cutting everyone off, but clarity. A clarity that says, I won't keep proving my worth to others who only want the parts of me that serve them. Or I can bless what we had without continuing in that any longer. Or I'm allowed to want more than just contact. I also want to be cared for. So how do we move forward with these things practically? How do we walk out of these shallow, drowning friendships where we feel isolated? Like usual, I think it begins with telling the truth. Not just to others, but to ourselves. Truth like, I've been doing all the work in this friendship, and I feel more like a backup plan than a priority. In fact, I don't even know if I feel safe to bring my whole self here. These truths can be painful to voice, but they're also freeing, because once you see what's real, you're no longer obligated to keep pretending. From there, the steps can become far more clear, where you audit your circle. And you start asking yourself, who really knows me? Who do I feel replenished when I'm around them? Who do I chase? And who chooses me back? And then name this pattern without assigning any blame. Say like, I'm realizing I've been maintaining this connection mostly on my end, and I'm looking for friendships that the effort actually goes two ways. Give yourself permission to step back, not as a punishment, but as a preservation. You're allowed to stop overextending just to keep the ghost of a friendship alive. So, practice intentional presence and start showing up more deeply with the ones who do reciprocate. Even if they're just a few, let them grow and resist the urge to perform. You don't have to over-explain your value. See, the right people will not need to be convinced. This is one of those core truths that I want to return to again and again, that integrity isn't just about being honest with others. It's actually also refusing to abandon yourself for connection. And intimacy only begins when we stop shrinking to fit into someone else's convenience. If we want friendships that hold up under pressure, we have to build them on more than ease. We have to build them on mutuality, on truth-telling, on presence that doesn't flinch when we're messy, inconvenient, or even not at our best. And we have to be the kind of friend that we say that we're looking for. That's what I learned through Tony, the one who I reached for only when I needed him because no one else is available. The one I overlooked until he was gone. I can't go back and undo that carelessness, but I can let it shape me going forward. See, now I want to be the kind of person who sees people not for what they give me, but for who they are. I want to stay consistent even when it's not convenient. I want to love in a way that outlasts usefulness. That's the kind of friendship that I'm building now with myself and with others around me, with this work that I'm doing. And if you're listening, maybe that's the kind of friendship that you're longing for as well. Here's some good news. Once you stop making room for what's hollow, you start making room for what's whole. So it's not too late to begin again. It's not too late to be known. You're not too late to be the kind of friend you wish you had had, and to finally receive that kind of friendship in return as well. We're not meant to be placeholders. We are meant to be held. And I hope that this episode has served in some capacity in clarifying this topic. Let me know your experiences down in the comments below. See you in the next episode.